Let's move on to our next segment. Tasha's Monster of the Week.
Tasha's Monsters of the Hideous. This hideous monster is the Bladesonger. Used to be for elves, now it's for everybody.
Well, welcome everyone to Monsters Multiclass. I'm Kevin Odie.
I'm Jared Bornagle.
And I'm Will Melvin.
And on this episode, we are looking at all of the wizard changes in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. So let's dive into it.
All right, so first thing that we're going to be talking about is the optional class features for the wizard in Tasha's. Not a ton here that's been changed. It lists out all of the spells that have been added, I think from Xanathar's and from Tasha's, but that's not really that important. We've talked about the spells on our spell episode, which Kevin can put somewhere around here. I did the finger thing. That way they know. So yeah. the only change that is important is the cantrip formulas. So this basically allows wizards to change out cantrips, or at least a cantrip, on a long rest. This is, again, an optional feature that can be added to your game, which I think is at least worth discussing a little bit, because cantrips are very solid and in what you choose. It's not like with spells where you can just find a spell scroll, learn a new spell. Cantrips, you know the amount that you know, and that's basically it.
Yeah, this to me kind of falls in the same vein as all of the other versatility features they've added. Basically, every class has some form of this now. Mm-hmm. And it's nice to have it official, but I mean, let's be honest. If you're a main DM, Jared, if someone's playing a wizard and said, hey, I kind of feel like I screwed up on some of my cantrip choices. Is it cool if I swap some out at the next level up?
Not every long rest.
Oh, it's per long rest?
Yeah.
Oh, geez.
This is big.
Okay, now I feel dumb.
And it fits the wizard. I've always thought that the wizard should have more versatility than they do.
Right.
Getting stuck with 5 forever is insane. Getting this is the kind of thing where you could be in a certain dungeon, or you'll be there, and replace Firebolt with something that doesn't do fire damage because you know it's not going to work.
Right.
For sure. I don't know how I completely missed that, and you just said it. I was clearly not paying close attention to the words you were saying, I guess.
I don't really listen to me either, so it's fine.
Okay, yeah. Switching out on a long rest. Man, I totally misread this one. That is crazy. That is huge. I love that sort of versatility.
Yeah, it
added, yeah.
Differentiates the wizard in a way that in some ways is getting lost along the way as more classes and different ways to get spells and stuff come out. This is like another way to solidify that they are the spellcaster and they're going to stay the best. And I love that. It's a bit of power creep, but I think it's in a healthy direction.
Right. Yeah, more just the versatility of it. The fact it's just one cantrip, not like their entire list could be redone every long rest. And yeah, it fits perfectly with what they go for with the spellcasting, their big thing. They're the only one who has a spell book of spells known, who they then prepare from, and they can just keep adding to it.
Right.
Given that idea of they're supposed to prepare for the day. Except for cantrips, because that's just how cantrips work. It's just for whatever reason, those really simple spells that they're just innately known, that they just have memorized, now they can't swap them.
Ooh, that's actually my favorite part of this, is we get to shut down that conversation. Everyone says, oh, cantrips are they're more like muscle memory, you know? So you just you can only learn new ones, and swapping them around, it just, that whole dichotomy just gone. It's just their preparation too. It's just, you can only switch out one per day.
Right.
It keeps it all in line. It makes just more sense for the wizard. So, yeah, love this change.
Yes.
And that's it for the optional features. Again, really short, but I think, again, worth talking about. Next is the Bladesinger. So this is not a new subclass by any means. This was actually in one of the oldest books that added subclasses, the Sword Coast Adventure Guide. You may not know about it because Wizards of the Coast is currently out back hitting it with a shovel, hoping that it stays down. But what they did is made a couple of changes and threw it into Tasha's just to get it up to speed. And one of which is they removed the requirement that it was for elves only. which is just, again, removing it from whatever flavor they set in the Sword Coast Adventure Guide. I don't remember.
Right. Yeah, the flavor was for elves.
Yeah.
No, it's not. Even though in there they had a line where it's saying if your DM agrees that doesn't make sense for your setting, anyone else could take it. So that's a pretty minor thing. Just opening it up.
Yep. The next thing is that they changed how many blade songs you get. It used to be that you would get 2 per short rest. Now it is up to your proficiency bonus per long rest. So that's different.
Yeah, that's when, like, early on, it actually kind of feels like a nerf. And my understanding is they were trying to boost this subclass because it's a kind of very unique take on the wizard, and it had complaints of not being crazy strong. I felt like 2 per short rest was okay.
Yeah.
Like, you had a lot of short rest in an adventuring day. Up to your proficiency bonus per long rest, like right away at 2nd level, you're going to be able to do this twice per long rest.
Yeah.
And that feels really, really limiting.
Yeah. Now, that said, how many times do you think an adventuring party normal table has more than 2 combat encounters per long rest before 5th level? So basically, I know I just threw a whole bunch of numbers around,
right.
But in a low-level campaign, it's not that often that you're getting into a bunch of different fights between having a long rest. Because your health isn't going to last that long. Your spells aren't going to last that long. You get 2 combats into a day, and you're basically done as it is. So I think it might come up a little bit in some unique scenarios where you don't have the blade song. But realistically, you get 3 at 5th level, because that's when your proficiency bonus goes up. Unless I'm wrong.
And
that's 5th level, right?
That's correct, yeah. Okay. And then 4 and 9th.
Yeah. So I feel like realistically, this isn't going to change anything because you almost never have more than 2 fights between short rests. Like, just about never. So that means you always have it. And when we're talking about low tier play, you almost never have more than, again, 2 per long rest. So I don't know. I can't say with confidence one way or the other because it really does depend on the table, but I get the gut feeling that you're still going to be able to use this every single combat encounter and not really worry about it.
Yeah, it just limits it in a different way. Yep. I'm not sure why they made the change. I guess just to give it a sense of scaling. That's the only thing I could think of, because otherwise it was just super short and that was it.
I would say to fit with the general idea that wizards aren't short rest based, they're long rest based.
Yeah.
But they still get arcane recovery.
It looked like a warlock. That's what warlocks do. It's like use your spells, short rest. This is more wizard flavored.
Yeah.
And I think if you drew this in like multiple graphs, you'd see them kind of like going back and forth every couple of levels, but it's really not that different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good way of putting it.
Right. Okay. And then the actual big change.
Yes. You can replace an extra attack with a cantrip. So at 6th level, you get extra attack with the blade song. I think you have to be in your blade song, but I don't have the exact... Nope. No, you do not? Okay, so you get extra attack, and you can, again, replace one of those attacks with a cantrip, which means that gishes are saved.
Yeah, there's a lot of shenanigans. So, like, yeah, your favorite, Jared, you could cast Booming Blade.
Why would you say that name
and also get an attack.
I told you we're not talking about Booming Blade anymore. Sorry, go ahead.
No, that was the gist of it. That is actually pretty crazy strong. Because the Booming Blade, I mean, it's going to go up in character level regardless, even if you're multiclass out of this or whatever. And it's kind of the trade-off of Booming Blade is it's just one attack. It's an action to do this cantrip as part of casting the cantrip. You make an attack, the attack hits, and then it locks them down and does some extra D8 damage as you get higher in level. And then that was supposed to be it. Now you can still do 2 attacks, and one of them is a souped-up Booming Blade.
Yep.
It's pretty strong. Or do Green Flame Blade to do some AoEs, or do a Toll the Dead and then an attack.
Which, now, that alone, Eldritch Knights can do at 7th level. They get the ability to cast a cantrip and make an attack immediately after. Though this is phrased a little bit differently, where this is replacing one of the extra attacks. I don't know how much that wording changes things, but it is at least a little bit different.
Yeah, War Magic, beginning at 7th, when you use your action to cast a cantrip, you can make one weapon attack as a bonus action.
Oh, as a bonus action.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
That's pretty important.
Yeah, so this is better.
Yeah.
That's why it's different. Okay.
And that's great. I mean, wizards should be better at martial abilities than Eldritch Knights.
They're better at spells.
Why would a fighter be
better casting
good?
spells? And you said this when we first read this. We were talking in our little group chat, and you said it has sarcastically about that. And keep in mind, they still have D6 hit dice. They can only wear light armor. They can't use shields. They get proficiency in exactly one-handed weapon.
Yep.
It's still pretty limited.
Right. Because
they don't get action surge. They don't get second wind.
Because that attack from the Bladesinger is going to be a short sword. That attack from an Eldritch Knight can be a battle axe. And has a D12 damage roll, plus great weapon fighting and all of those add-ons.
Right, yeah.
So, yes.
So I think this is a nice needed boost, and it really makes the blade singing feel like a wizard melee character. I think it bridges that well. Otherwise, it felt a little lackluster before this.
Before, it was one or the other. This is now allowing you to have that mix.
Right. Or before, blade singing was saved by multiclassing. We went to that a lot when we did wizard multiclasses. We would look at, we can do blade singing with this, and that becomes neat. But I would never want to just play a straight blade singing wizard. Until now. Because I love Booming Blade, and I love how much Jared hates it, and I want to be able to do it every single turn and attack. So I'll probably go to 6 blade singing, and then dump the rest in fighter, so I could still do Great Weapon Master and the two-handed, and...
Kevin!
Well, then I would lose my ability to do Blade Song doing that.
Yeah.
And then I have to worry about intelligence. It probably wouldn't be great, but...
No, it wouldn't.
Yeah.
Believe me, Kevin, you will always find a way to make a character that I despise. So don't put all your chips into the blade singing class.
Right. Kevin's custom blade singing class, Blade Booming. It's all about booming blade.
Where you take one or a couple levels into Bard just to get dissonant whispers, so it makes them run away.
Yeah.
Right.
Which, did we conclude that does not actually trigger Booming Blade or something?
I don't remember the conclusion.
Really weird.
And I remember
we went back and forth for a while.
The conversation bothered me. I remember that. But we did land on it. Yes.
It's
can get
a bad
damage.
spell that makes the game worse.
Booming Blade,
Booming
yes.
Blade.
We all agreed on that. Yes.
I didn't agree on that. I love Booming Blade.
I know that you like making the game worse for every single person except for you. Kevin Odie, hater of other people.
Oh yeah, with the Booming Blade, it has the line, if the target willingly moves 5 feet or more, then it takes the thunder damage. And I think it was determined Dissonant Whispers is not so much a willing thing. But it still triggers opportunity attacks, because if they moved using their reaction, movement, action, bonus action, it triggers an opportunity attack. But willingly, they are not. That's what
and it's still good because they're still boomed, so they have to go run away, and then they're stuck over there.
Oh yeah, that was the cool
which
combination. Yeah, because it doesn't just end.
Yeah,
it never ends.
God, that spell's so.
You just use it next turn because it's a cantrip.
Right.
I love how we just can't not talk about it. It's impossible. Every time it comes up.
To not hate on Booming Blade.
Yeah.
What I hate about Booming Blade is it's almost impossible to talk about anything without being like, yeah, you should shoehorn Booming Blade in here somehow.
Right.
Oh,
Right.
You're making any kind of melee attack and you have the capacity for magic? Yeah, you're going to need a Booming Blade.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Never gets old. You know what doesn't get old either? Describe.
Jesus.
Describe is one of our newer affiliates here, where you can sign up for their website and get beautiful, professionally made descriptions to implement into your game, and basically anything that you can think of, walking into a cave, walking out of a cave, things that happen within caves. You just type in caves and get a whole bunch of descriptions. And if I had done that before talking about this, I probably would have had a really good description to give. But instead, here I am, fumbling like a buffoon. as we move on to the Order of Scribes. I think I'm killing it. I kind of feel like I'm killing it.
Yeah, killing it.
All right, so Order of Scribes. This is a brand new subclass, and I think it was actually, correct me if I'm wrong, heavily changed from any Unearthed Arcana, or there were no UAs with this, because I feel like I don't remember this in its form at all.
Yeah, I don't remember. I didn't specifically look that up.
Me either.
But
okay.
I do not remember it either.
So this is a real wizard's wizard, as I would really think of it. It's a whole class dedicated to books, but it's a wizard that's already dedicated to books. So,
right.
Books.
I don't like it. I don't like the flavor. I am really disappointed in this one.
See, I disagree, because I don't like the fact that wizards always have to be, I won't say shoehorned, but they have to have a school focus. I like that this one is just like wizard. It's your most base wizard. In the same way that I almost want a bard that's just like, hey, you like music, you weave music, and we don't have anything for that. So it's like...
Or a warlock whose patron is warlocks.
No, they definitely really got away from the schools of magic with wizard. I mean, that's obviously the original.
Sure.
But then you got like war magic, blade singing.
That's just more combat-based ones, so I don't just want that. That doesn't help me.
In Jared's defense, it's hitting stuff with weapons and then new schools and then now Order of Scribes.
Yeah. So this, and like, where Paladin has Oath of Devotion, and that feels like you're straight-laced, that is a Paladin. I feel like that's where this fits in, is it takes away any of that, oh, well, I like evocation spells. It's just like, no, I want to be a wizard, and I want to be the wizard. So I like that, I guess. But it's allowed to not be interesting to you.
It's not interesting, because like then its real main flavor is you put a conscious energy, like a conscious arcane energy, into your spellbook, and then that manifests and like help you out as your little buddy. And it just, I don't know, it's one of those that's just not clicking with me. Like Psionics doesn't click with you. This just feels kind of weird. I don't feel like the mechanics, which we'll obviously dive into here shortly, really meshes well with that flavor. It just... Yeah, I don't know. It just kind of... It almost feels like it's trying to like shoehorn in like that Disney character sidekick of your quirky, goofy spellbook, which now has a voice and talks and...
I don't know.
Like a butler from Victorian England.
Right. And it's like, I guess that could be fun. I don't know.
Well, its first ability is Wizardly Quill. And for this... Again, second level. As a bonus action, you can magically create a tiny quill in your free hand. The magic quill has the following properties. It doesn't require ink, and when you write with it, it produces ink in any color of your choice. Ooh.
Game breaking.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, if anybody does not play a character that is not taking a 2-level dip into wizard for that, what the fuck are you doing?
Why are all of your notes in green ink? Because I can.
I love those pens when I was a kid, though.
You're like, oh, look at
like
all
the
these different
rainbow
colors.
ones. Yeah.
Red,
or the ones where like
blue.
the single tube of ink was a rainbow, so it changed as you wrote.
I never had one of
those were bad.
I feel like by the end it would just be brown.
No, it worked well. I don't know how it works, but it was just very hard to read.
Yeah. All right, then next is the time you must spend to copy a spell into your spellbook equals 2 minutes per spell level if you use the quill for the transcription. Kind of just a flavor thing.
Yeah, usually when it comes to, I think, copying into a spellbook, money is the main limiting factor, not so much time.
Right. Like, it does take time, and it's a couple hours, and this means it's faster, so, yeah.
A lot faster.
A lot. But this is, again, just really supposed to be flavor.
Yeah.
Next, you can erase anything you write with the quill if you wave the feather over the text as a bonus action, provided the text is within 5 feet of you. So if you need to erase some text in the middle of combat, you know exactly where it falls in your turn order.
Right. No, I mean, this is, clearly, purely ribbon fluff. But right away, though, when we're talking about the mechanics not meshing with this, like, I don't... Like, when I read this where they've infused their spellbook with a sentient life, and then the first thing they get is a quill that kind of works like an erasable pen. Like I don't see the connection. It just seems like kind of this weird. It's like, what if they get a quill?
Their whole thing isn't just that they infuse their book with life. It's that they are like they really like books. They really like books and writing. That's the flavor of this class. It has, yes, sure, you get a little floating spell book. That doesn't matter. You really like books. And because you like books so much, you learn how to make them people.
and get a fancy quill.
Yeah, and get a fancy quill.
Yeah.
Next is the Awaken spellbook. So using specially prepared inks and ancient incantations.
This is also at second level,
yes.
Should be said. You get more than just the quill at second level.
Oh, yeah.
That would be a bad...
Still comparable to some other wizard second level dips, though. They're not all winners.
No, they're not. They're not.
Anyways, you have awakened an arcane sentience within your spellbook. While you are holding the book, it grants you the following benefits. You can use the book as a spellcasting focus for your wizard spells. Which, let's talk about these one at a time. That's easier. Sure. I like that. I know it's just flavor, but this is the first time that as a wizard, you can use your book as your focus. And like...
Right?
How is that not been a thing?
That does just make so much sense.
Right.
Like I never thought about it before because it's just how I always pictured it, but kind of nuts where it's like, yeah, I guess you can.
Yeah. Nope, sorry, you need a crystal.
I would picture them.
You need to make sure you...
Like, I can't like have my book up and like have the page open for reference and... Nope.
Only if you're an Order of the Scribes wizard.
Right.
I guess
how many
maybe,
years that you couldn't do that and now you can?
I guess maybe the idea is you don't need to reference it because that's what preparation is, memorizing what's there.
Sure. And it's not as much about the reference as it is, again, where the magic comes from. Because usually as a wizard, you've got a wand or a staff or whatever, and you're pointing in that direction. This person's just holding their book, which is a cool image, but again, makes no other difference.
Right. I'm getting a kind of evangelical Bible thumper.
Yeah.
From that, actually. That could be an interesting way to play the character, meshing with cleric.
Were you doing the Bible smack, Will? Is that what you're going for? Okay.
Hold it up.
Yeah.
The demons.
There you go.
Yeah.
Anyways, next, when you cast a wizard spell with a spell slot, you can temporarily replace its damage type with a type that appears in another spell in your spellbook. The latter spell must be of the same level as the spell slot you expend. So if you cast Scorching Ray and you've got Melf's Acid Arrow in your spellbook, you can change out the fire damage for acid damage and make it Scorching Acid Ray. Acid Ray.
Is Melf Acid Arrow first level?
I don't remember. I thought Scorching Ray's second level.
Oh, you're right. I think it doesn't matter, but yeah.
I think Melf's is second. But that's the concept. I think it's weird that it has to be the same spell level. I feel like...
Yeah, it's just...
Or lower?
It's not a bad idea. And this is one of those mechanical benefits that's fitting with this. They learn how to alter the spells and change the damage in a more booky... I guess that's probably why, to make it a more kind of learned, booky way of doing it versus the sorcerer's way of just being able to do it. Because they got the new meta magic options.
Right.
Of being able to, I think, spend a sorcery point and change it. So in a sense, it's kind of worse than that because it's a lot more limiting.
Yeah.
But
I think it was designed that specific thing is to limit what you can do. Because by 10th level, you could do almost any spell at any damage.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah.
Whereas this, you are stuck with what you've got.
Yeah, and in a way...
high level, I would actually anticipate you being able to do this in any capacity you want.
Yeah. Really, my issue with this is less about the ability itself and more around, as I've said before, in 5th edition, there's just not that many times where resistance or vulnerability come up, which is a little bit of a problem, in my opinion, and it should be more common. But regardless, if it does come up, you probably have a way of changing up what you have. And, that means that you can make any of your spells, like if you have a first level spell and you have Chromatic Orb, boom, all of your first level spells can be changed around to whatever elemental type you want.
I was wondering how that worked.
I don't see why not.
With Chromatic Orb. Because, Chromatic Orb does not have an inherent damage type. You pick it when you cast. So I don't know if that would apply with this.
Unless I heard otherwise, I'd say yes, because it's just a first level one. If it was like at, a 10th level one, it starts to be... Wait, 10th level? There's no 10th level spells. No. What are you talking about?
What do you know, Jared?
I assume I'm a 10th level character.
Yes, if you're a 10th level character, then it is... Yeah, you're casting, 6 level spells? Yeah, that becomes a little different. No, that's still 5th level, isn't it? You get 5th at 9th. Whatever.
Yeah.
The point is, I don't care about changing the first level spells to whatever.
And also, how would this work with upcasting? Like magic missiles, just a first level spell. It's force damage, but you can upcast it at higher levels.
Yeah, I think it has. I'm assuming it means the base. That's what I was gathering from it. Because otherwise, yes, you could make everything force damage.
Yeah, so that can actually be super limiting. Will, you were saying that where you think you can kind of just do whatever you want. It's like, I don't think that's true at all, actually.
No, you can do whatever you want at very high levels by the time that your dungeon master, you bullied him into giving scrolls for all the stuff you want. But up until that point, yes, you'd be limited to like 1 or 2, maybe 3 damage types per level. But like we've said before, the wizard gets unlimited spells, at least theoretically. If it's in the wizard book, I think that probably covers everything.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be prepared or anything.
Yeah, and really, you don't need it. You don't need to have every option available. Usually, you just need an option that gets around what the obstacle is. So the thing has fire resistance. Well, I still want to use Scorching Ray, but I don't want to cast Scorching Ray. It's resistant to fire. Well, luckily, I've got that snowball spell, so I'll make it cold damage.
Right.
And it allows you to feel better about not preparing everything.
Yeah.
So for that, once again, that's a check. That's good. I like that. Yep. It fits the flavor of this class.
Right.
Last part of this, again, still at 2nd level, is when you cast a wizard spell as a ritual, you can use the spell's normal casting time rather than adding 10 minutes to it. Once you use this benefit, you can't do so again until you finish a long rest.
So, I mean, you could always do that with rituals, but it takes a spell slot. So basically, this is one.
And they have to be prepared.
Rituals don't. No, not for wizards.
No.
That's their whole
If you
point.
want to cast it as an action and not as a ritual, it has to be prepared. That's a good
point. Yeah. That's a good point. So this is solid. Yeah, basically a one free spell slot per long rest. And then, not having to prepare it.
Yeah, and it does get better as you level up because the rituals get better themselves. Something like water breathing is 3rd level and I think takes your normal 10 minutes to cast. So if you need water breathing absolutely immediately because you're underwater and you didn't prepare water breathing, then you're going to be super happy you have this.
Right.
I don't have a list of every single ritual spell in front of me, but...
No, that's it.
That's just it, yeah.
It's just water breathing.
Most of them are pretty low level, though.
Right.
So, yeah, as you said, free spell slot is nice in itself. Detect magic is one. Identify is another. Usually, you have the time to sit around and cast those as a ritual, but if you don't, here you go.
Right.
All right, so that's it for 2nd level, unless there's other thoughts on that.
Well, there's the last paragraph. It's easier to replace the spellbook if you lose it.
Oh.
And over the course of a short rest by using that wizardly quill, you can write your spells into a blank book. At the end of the rest, your spellbook's consciousness is summoned in the new book, and with that comes all of the spells. So usually, if you lose your wizard spellbook, you are stuck with the spells you already had prepared, and it's a pretty big ordeal to get it back. I don't think you really can get it back. You have to work out with the DM of finding it in the world. There's not a mechanic of relearning those spells. So it's kind of a really, really big deal for the wizard to lose the spellbook. This just takes that away.
Yeah, it's almost such a big deal that I've never seen a DM even consider it unless the person has already prepared a spellbook. Because you can make a second spellbook. Nothing's preventing you from having your second one, and you'd only lose the spells that you've learned since then if you weren't able to copy them into your backup. So I think that's something that's encouraged, and everybody should be backing up their spells, back them up in the cloud, but but realistically, it's just, I don't think it comes up. It's an old school style of DMing that I just don't see.
Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah, it's such a... So this gets around a problem that's such a big deal where people just don't do it.
Yeah. Wouldn't it be fun if I just took away... Now, okay, if it was temporary, I could see doing that. And then... How do I put this? Basically, because this ability exists, now I could see using it. Like, oh, you get captured, and when you get captured, we take your spell book away. And any other wizard would be like, oh, I'd have the perfect spell for this, but I didn't have it prepared when we got captured, so guess we're shit out of luck. Well, this wizard, they've got a solution.
Right, assuming that the captors left them the magic erasable pen and a blank book.
Can they make another one? You can, they magically create
it's free.
The tiny
okay.
Pens.
Oh, you create, okay. There you go, sure.
Yeah, so they can do that at least.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's that type of thing where
But it has to be a blank book. You still need a blank book.
Yeah, right, which I don't think is too absurd.
Right.
You can make it out of leaves, man.
Sure.
Right.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah.
That's a real...
It's like twine in a string of leaves. And you're like,
that's a real Will Meldon spellbook right there.
kind of phoning it in.
Did you just make that 5 minutes ago? Yeah. What of it?
It's got the stuff in it. What are you mad about? Like what you were saying, though, is you've got these situations and these features where it's just like it gives the DM temptation to lob the softball. So you're like, oh, look, you solved the problem with the class feature. That's not really... I wouldn't say that's good design.
I'm not saying it is either.
Right, yeah. It's like, so if they were not this type of wizard, the Order of the Scribe, and you had a plan to temporarily take the spellbook as a challenge to overcome, but you knew they were going to get it back so you don't ruin all of their hard work, great, that's not a problem then. And then if they were Order of the Scribe and you knew they had this, you just wouldn't do that. You just would not introduce that plot device because there's nothing to overcome. It would just be like, oh, I took your book. It's like, all right, I got it back. It's like, that was fun for everyone.
To some extent. Like, that's like a different conversation, but there is some benefit to giving a party a win based on like their class features. Like, even though you know they're going to succeed just because they get to feel cool for a second.
Yeah, and I definitely see that in like combat setting, like teeing up combats where, you know, someone's just going to hit it out of the park because they got the perfect ability for this and make them feel really cool and powerful. With this, like specifically this, I think it would be so transparently obvious what you're doing. It's like, oh, I took your spell book. Oh, wow, you're in trouble now. And then they go, no, I take a short rest and I have it back. It's like, oh, you got me.
Huh.
Like I just don't see it working out to like make anyone feel cool.
It's not that bad. It is a thing that could happen when you get captured by guards or whatever. And your party of Eldritch Knights and Orders of Scribes are just like manifesting their stuff in the jail cell. Right. You're like, damn. What the hell?
I think I still somewhat disagree because there's still at least some things to overcome because of that blank book where I could see them like they need to now convince a guard to give them a blank book. And why the hell would they do that? So there's some things in there where
it's just getting stretchier. It's like, hey, can I have a blank and large and slightly magical book? It's like, yeah, sure. What's the worst that you could do? Write all your spells in it again?
Right. So I will say overall, yes, it is not so good that it's like, yeah, I'm glad this is a part of the class. It still runs into that issue where it's just probably not going to come up. And if it does, yes, it's going to be a little ham-fisted. Doing that once just because they have the class feature, though, I mean, it'll be fine. I don't know. If the player's like that upset about it, I think it's better from a role-playing perspective than a meta perspective. From a role-playing perspective, the character doesn't know that this scenario was made by the DM and that they're in the perfect scenario. So,
sure, yeah.
And like, I don't know. I guess I'm keeping those like totally separate, which isn't fair. There's always the meta aspect of it. But from the like actual in-game perspective, yeah, they're going to be pretty hyped that they can do this really weird niche trick.
Yeah. No, that's fair.
Well. I promise not to do that to you, Kevin, because you'll never play this class.
Probably not, no.
Next is Manifest Mind. This is their 6th level feature. So with this, you can conjure forth the mind of your awakened spellbook. As a bonus action, while the book is on your person, you can cause the mind to manifest as a tiny spectral object hovering in an unoccupied space of your choice within 60 feet. The spectral mind is intangible, doesn't occupy a space, but it does shed dim light in a 10-foot radius, and it looks like whatever you want it to look like. While manifested, it can see and hear, and it has dark vision out to 60 feet. You can telepathically share info, or at least it can share it with you. You can't share it with it. Whenever you cast a wizard spell on your turn, you can cast it as if it was from the specter, and instead of using your own senses, you can do so a number of times per day equal to your proficiency bonus, and you regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. So that's the first part here. There is still more to this ability. It's a long one. Classic wizard bullshit. As a bonus action, you can cause the spectral mind to hover up to 30 feet to an unoccupied space that you or it can see, and it can pass through creatures but not objects. The spectral mind stops manifesting if it moves 300 feet away, or if somebody casts dispel magic on it, or if your book's destroyed, or if you die, or if you dismiss it. And once you conjure the mind, you can't do so until you finish a long rest, unless you expend a spell slot of any level to conjure it again. Whew.
So I think the biggest thing of this is the being able to cast through its space.
Well, why didn't I just say that?
Yeah. Similar to the Echo Knights, I could attack through Echo spaces, so you could cast through this space, which is cool. I think it's not going to come up as much as it may initially seem. But probably the best then further use of that specifically is to increase your range essentially by 60 feet. As a bonus action, you can pop this thing out 60 feet from you and then cast through that space. And so you could essentially add 60 feet of range to all of your spells, which will definitely come up. That's neat.
That's a little bit reductive. Like if you don't have it out, you can do that, but you can just have it out all the time. It makes kind of sense to pop it out 60 feet because it can only move 30. But after that, you can move it around the battlefield. If somebody's hiding, this is actually a great way to get to them.
Right. Like if they're totally behind cover, move it behind them.
Yeah.
And it puts you in zero danger because it has no HP. It can't be targeted. It's an inanimate, or not even an object. It is totally intangible.
Right.
So it's like a familiar, but a lot better.
What, just different?
No, it's a lot better.
Well, because a familiar can deliver touch attacks, and then I guess I'm looking at familiar in the sense of someone who's not just a pure caster. I see use out of that where you can... They could do the help action,
right?
Things like that. It could also be more than 300 feet from you, so you could scout with your familiar if you have a flying one. They're just different. I don't know if I'd even really compare them.
Fair. Have them both. Why not?
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I think what Will mentioned is a lot of the benefit. I mean, you can just have this thing show up anywhere. The fact that it can go through creatures is nice. You can't go through objects. If you could pop through objects, that would be even better, but I digress.
That'd be a little bit too much.
Yeah, probably. But, I mean, I feel like that alone of just being able to cast spells anywhere on the battlefield, basically, given enough time. 30 feet of movement isn't that crazy.
That's not that crazy of an ability.
It's not that much speed. But I don't know. I think overall it's solid.
Yeah, it'll definitely have its uses.
I do also just like the image of it, because I could see, this is just purely flavor, but just moving it, 30 feet and then just dropping a fireball right at its feet. Just because I just like the image of that.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah. It just like flies through the air and then just boom, explodes on itself. Yeah.
So this is where another thing where I feel like there's a breakdown in mechanics to flavor, where if they're supposed to be the bookie wizards and not bookie in the sense of taking and managing bets, you know what I mean? The scholarly type of wizards. Again, I would think it would all be more about changing and their spells and stuff like that, where this is then, you get this spectral form of a thing that you could cast through. Again, it just feels kind of like this, there's something about that flavor that just doesn't line up to me. It goes back to what I was saying at the beginning, that sort of awakened spellbook, and I just don't like that. I'd rather see them being able to continue to modify their spells further. Then again, I guess I'd be stepping on toes of meta magic.
Yeah, I mean, kind of. I think that's
unless
okay.
it was maybe a more permanent thing after a long rest, you could add modifiers to spells based on some sort of limit, and maybe it's a bit stronger because you can't just choose to do it in the moment. Something like that.
The thing that you have to realize is that the initial flavor is bookish wizard, but the flavor then evolves.
Bookish. That is such a better way to say that.
Yes, that is the word for it. But it's not bookish. It's you've awakened your book. It's book awakening. That's the flavor.
Yeah, well, no, it's
you start here and then you end up. Well, kind of.
You guys yelled at me at the beginning for only focusing too much on that, saying it's both.
It's both.
It's one to the
bookish.
other. And it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
I mean, I'll give you this, Kevin, just because, again, I have so many classes that I'm like, I just hate this. Why do you hate it? I don't know. It's stupid. So you're totally.
I don't know. I'm mad.
Right. I do like the idea of a wizard who is more about manipulating their spells, and this one starts with that. It kind of touches on it, but it doesn't follow through. So being disappointed by that flavor makes a ton of sense to me. I like the awakened book flavor. So to me, it's like, that's fine. This is all great. Who cares about all of that? But, I see where you're coming from there.
But yeah, mechanically, I think this will get uses. It adds some nice flexibility.
Yeah.
Which is neat. Maybe a little bit of scouting, but it's kind of hard because it shines bright light or dim light. So it's like, it's not exactly sneaky. I mean.
Yeah, it's really not worthwhile. Because it doesn't even pass through, again, objects, so it's not like you can just, have them poke their head into the next door or something. It's, if anything, it'd be a really good way to freak people out, though. Because it's just floating book just walks into a room and everyone's like, what the hell is that?
Right. 6 levels of wizard to freak people out, ignoring that you could do it with the minor image cantrip.
Minor images, they don't even move, do they?
I think you could make it. Is it? I don't know.
It doesn't matter.
A 6th-level illusion wizard could probably figure out how to make a book walk into a room.
Yes. I guess. But could it make it talk in a British accent?
I don't think
yes.
This can. An illusion wizard. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Once it gets major image, sure.
Yeah, which is like a 3rd level spell, I think.
No, major image is 5th level.
On my bard.
Oh, I thought that was higher. To the looking it up.
Major image to cut ahead. 3rd level spell.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, then you're right.
Anyways,
6th level. Dumb thing to look
It doesn't really matter much. But we're just going down the rabbit hole of trying to be right.
I don't think this thing can talk, technically.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I don't think the manifest mind could talk. It doesn't say it has a speech. Yeah, telepathically.
Right. I guess you're right.
I don't think this thing talks.
The fact that in the art it has a floating head that...
It looks like a Disney. It looks like a Disney character. It does.
Now,
that should talk in a British accent.
But what it really is like a near replicant. Where they have a floating grimoire. I don't think actually. Okay, never mind.
It can be whatever you want. It can be like your book, or it can be.
The newer game Nier Automata. There's
I did not play that.
That's fine.
Oh, okay.
In that game, there's a floating robot, but in the previous game, Nier Replicant, you have a floating book that follows you throughout the entire game, and is a serious companion. It is not a Disney style goofy object.
Right.
But that's how you want to play it. I mean, if you want it to be goofy, let it be goofy. If you want it to be serious, it can be a serious book. I'm sure it will throw some people off.
All right. Next level.
All right. Master Scrivener. I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly. It's not a word in my regular vocabulary. This is a 10th level feature. Whenever you finish a long rest, you can create one magic scroll by touching your wizardly quill to a blank piece of paper or parchment and cause one spell from your awakened spellbook to be copied onto the scroll. Must be within 5 feet of you when you make the scroll. The chosen spell must be of 1st or 2nd level and must have a casting time of 1 action. Once in the scroll, the spell's power is enhanced, counting as 1 level higher than normal. So if you put like a Scorching Ray on there at 2nd level, it's now a 3rd level Scorching Ray. You can cast the spell from the scroll by reading it as an action. The scroll is unintelligible to anyone else and vanishes from the scroll when you cast it or when you finish your next long rest. So let's just talk about that. There is additional parts to this feature at 10th level, but that alone.
So this, again, since only you could read it, I feel that really limits it. I think it was a missed opportunity where you can't hand this off to someone else.
And there's
so it's
precedent.
essentially, it's a free 2nd or 3rd level slot.
Right.
That's what it is, which is fantastic. So actually, at this point, they would have 3 free slots because they get the thing with the Awakened Spellbook where they can do the ritual for free.
Right.
And then at 10th, they get this. And then Wizards just get the Arcane.
Which gives even more spell slots
Recovery.
back.
Yeah.
But let's just say from this class, they get 2, or I guess, 3. You said 3 free spells.
Right.
So, yeah, I do think it was a bit of a missed opportunity, especially because looking at the Artificer, as I was saying, there's precedent here where they get a spell storing stone where they can put like 10 level 2 spells into this stone, and they can hand that thing around like candy, I guess, on Halloween. I don't know. I don't really have a good...
Like cure wound stones that are being exploited.
Right.
Piss off the dungeon master.
Right. And maybe that's why they didn't, but I don't think this one's as exploitable as a, again, 10 spells into a cure wound stone.
Yeah, compared to, that Artificer, I'm trying to pull it up, but spell storing.
Stone, I think is what it was.
Spell storing item, yeah.
Item. Doesn't have to be a stone, I guess.
Yes, 1st or 2nd level spell from the Artificer spell list that requires 1 action to cast, so that's basically the same. You can hand it off, and isn't it twice per... Up to 2 times your intelligence modifier?
Correct.
Yeah, twice your intelligence modifier.
Yeah.
So up to 10, most likely.
Yeah. So that's...
and you get this at 11th, where the wizard gets this at 10th. It's just...
Major differences being, 1, wizards get more spell options. So
right.
I guess that matters. Also, they're getting upcast, which is kind of cool. You've got 2 different spells. They're comparable. I think that the Artificer is better. I will definitely say that.
Yeah. Well, it's getting upcast to maximum of 3.
Right.
So you could do a 2nd level spell, upcast to 3rd. Or its 1st level spot's upcast to 2nd. I mean, it's not that crazy.
No, it's not.
No, I mean...
But what is nice is also at 10th level, they become adept at crafting spell scrolls, which they say are described in the treasure chapter of the Dungeons Master Guide, but honestly I think they're described a little bit better in Xanathar's, which I'll get to in a second. But the gold and time you spend to make such a scroll is halved if you use your wizardly quill. So those numbers, which do come up in Xanathar's Downtime Revisited, laid out explicitly, is for a 1st level spell, it takes 1 day normally and 25 gold to make a spell scroll. So now we're putting that to half a day and 13 gold. So if you want to talk about making 1st level spells that other people can use, this is your option. 2nd level spells, a little bit more expensive, 125 gold, and they take 3 days. Sorry, I should be speaking in either halves or wholes. So normally they take 3 days and 250 gold. Have that, day and a half, 125 gold. That's really cheap.
I don't know if I'd say cheap. I feel like that'd add up quick. It's nice. It's a nice discount on it all. I keep it on spell scrolls is that it needs to cast it needs to exist on your class list.
Right.
So it's not like you could be handing these off to the fighter or something like you can with
True.
a spell storing item. So it's still a limit. But wizards, have a really wide range of spells they know. And so if somebody could cast spells, there's a good chance it could be done and handed off. Yeah, we never really play around of creating spell scrolls. We also never really have wizards that much. I guess anybody can't they? As long as they know spells? Or is it only wizards?
I think you have to be given the ability to create them.
Okay.
I think, actually, I guess I don't really remember. In downtime, it's just
proficient in Arcana, and you have to have the material component. So technically, yeah, but
you need to know the spell, I assume.
Yes.
Who's ever proficient in Arcana?
Wizards.
Wizards. End of list.
I think my current character is Embers, but I don't remember.
I'm not going to sit here and say that these later ones are like going to happen all the time. For a 9th level spell, if we're looking at the later ones, a 9th level spell normally takes 48 work weeks and 250,000 gold.
Jesus.
Okay, so you're probably not going to get that one. Even halved, we're talking about 24 weeks and 125,000 gold.
Can you imagine taking the time to make a 9th level spell and then it getting pickpocketed off of you?
No, I can't.
I truly cannot.
That's a truly phenomenal level of wealth density. 250,000 gold. Which just because there's no digital banking in this realm, that's just like a house full of coins.
Yeah.
The equivalent of one average size house filled to the brim with coins. Yeah. But I mean,
multiple trips just to pay for the materials.
Right. But once you get still on the in between, I feel like it takes the creating a spell scroll from unobtainable to now something that you might actually consider and should actually consider.
Sure.
And I still, despite me really liking this, view this as a failed feature because I just don't see this coming up that much. And it seems like the type of thing that only, advanced players are going to pay attention to, and newbie people are just going to be like, I don't really know about that. The DM's going to be like, creating a spell scroll, what are you talking about? And the player's going to be like, I don't know, I want to make a spell. Let me just...
It's in page 133 in Xanathars. Right. It's like, dude, just cast magic missile or something.
Right.
Stop it.
Yeah.
48 work weeks? Not at my table.
Yeah. I see this and I see tons of opportunity. And if I was playing this character, I would say every second of downtime, I'm going to be sitting there. I'm spending my money on scrolls. I'm going to be making scrolls. And that's just that's awesome to me. I'm going to have a whole pocket. Every spell that I don't have prepared on a daily basis, I'm going to try and have a spell scroll of. So that's I'm always prepared. I've got this. And I, again, love that flavor. Love the idea. I just don't see this playing out well for most people.
You know what this actually could be used for? Money making. You could let your character make money this way.
Right.
It's true.
Yeah. And your imagined use of it, I think you'll find in actual play, it's going to be painfully slow.
Yeah.
Think about it, especially in our style of campaign where it's we don't skip time. We play out every day. And it's that's going to feel really painfully slow.
I'd be asking for it, from the group. I'd be like, hey, guys, can we, let's all just chill for a week?
Take 48 work weeks off?
No, not 48.
No, yeah, I know.
But, 4th level, if it's hey, can we just, take a week of downtime? I'm asking for downtime. And I think that's where it's different, is right now, you guys, your characters don't have a reason to ask for downtime.
Right. Perfectly
viable. There's literally nothing wrong with that. This character... lives off of downtime, and I would be asking for that and saying no, I need my time off. We just went on this big adventure. What are you talking about?
Right.
That's part of my character is I want to sit here and I want to work on my scrolls. Why are we going out again trying to get ourselves killed?
That maybe I'm a jerk, but I can absolutely see the reaction being no, we're not just gonna let everything we want to do sit for
all right. No,
get one third level spell.
Downtime is a reward. People need to stop thinking of day by day that this has to happen. You can totally create these temporal voids where nothing happens but your downtime activities. It's no, we got to stop the bad guys. No, 2 weeks passed, nothing else happened in the world. You just made your spell scrolls. That's a quest reward. You get 2 weeks of downtime. That's how some people Adventure League plays explicitly like this.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want that and players want it, give it to them.
You know, talking. Okay. I was being the jerk interrupting you, but I feel like I kept misreading when you were stopping. Yeah, it very much depends on the campaign style. And where like the type of campaigns we've always played, it does not come up. And then especially any pre-written stuff, it's like, I mean, you're dealing with like world-ending events, like the campaign books. It's like you don't have downtime in those.
Yeah. I mean, all that said, like it's super easy, in my opinion, to like make those opportunities. Even looking at just where our campaign's at right now, you guys went for an arena fight. And instead of me saying it's going to be in 2 weeks, I said it's in 3 days. If I said it was in 2 weeks, then you guys now have 2 weeks to kill where you can't really go too far away from this area. The reason why I didn't make it longer is because you don't use downtime. No one uses downtime when I give it to you.
Yeah, I don't think we would have accepted it.
Well, that's okay. That's besides the point.
2 weeks. It was like, it's not worth sitting around for 2 weeks. We got stuff to take care of.
Now you're making decisions for the whole party. But that's besides the point. It's again, if you have characters that want to take advantage of that, it can be worked into the game very easily.
Yeah, it can. Yeah.
And that's still, I'll stand by. That's where this breaks down, is because now if one character wants to do that and the rest don't, it can kind of it can cause some friction. Or if the DM just doesn't think about giving that all the time, then it's not going to play out this way. I think this feature works great for Adventure League, less so for actual table play, as much as I like it and want to use it.
Yeah. A kind of boost to this is maybe allow downtime activities like spell scrolls or really whatever, if it makes sense, while traveling. Like, as written, traveling is like, if you are traveling, everyone picks the roles to do, watching for danger or navigating or foraging. And if someone maybe another role is they'll pick a downtime activity where they don't need crazy equipment.
Sure.
And they could sit on a cart and work on the spell scrolls for the 8-hour travel day.
Yep, definitely one way to do it. 2 hours on watch, and you're like, yeah, I'm only half paying attention, and I'm going to work on my spell scrolls instead. Who does that sound like?
Yeah, my character messing with the trinkets.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's 2 hours every day, which is fine for your first level spells, or it adds up over time.
Right.
All right. Enough on that.
There's ways to get in.
Yeah. I think it's a great conversation because this is a feature that you have to think about before taking and like discuss it with your DM. It's not straightforward, which makes it bad, but I love it.
Right.
All right. Last, though, is at 14th level, One with the Word. Your connection to your awakened spellbook has become so profound that your soul has become entwined with it. While the book is on your person, you have advantage on all intelligence checks, arcana checks, as the spellbook helps you remember magical lore. Moreover, if you take damage while your spellbook's mind is manifested, you can prevent all of that damage to you by using your reaction to dismiss the spectral mind, using its magic to save yourself, then roll 3d6. The spellbook temporarily loses spells of your choice that have a combined spell level equal to that roll or higher. For example, if the roll's total is 9, spells vanish from that book that have a combined level of at least 9, which could mean 1 9th level spell, 3 3rd level spells, or some other combination. And if there aren't enough spells in this book to cover this cost, you just drop to 0 HP, I guess, somehow. Oh, that's actually a really smart way of doing that, because otherwise somebody makes a spell book with 1 spell in it and says, sorry, my book doesn't have enough.
Right.
Anyways, you forget these spells temporarily until you finish 1d6 long rests, and you're incapable of casting the lost spells, even if you find them on a scroll or in another spell book. After you finish the required number of rests, they reappear in your spellbook. You can only do this once per long rest. I think we have it, folks. The most complicated ability I have ever seen in 5th edition.
And it's not that good. That is way too harsh of a penalty to avoid the damage from one attack.
I don't know, as a wizard.
Or just one source of damage.
Yeah, I mean, a dragon's breath? Those can be like wiping you out in one turn.
I guess. I don't know. I mean, as the capstone of the subclass, once per long rest, you could avoid the damage from one source of damage by forgetting 3d6 spell levels for 1d6 long rests. I mean, that could be 18 spell levels for 6 days, like in worst case scenario.
Yeah, that'd suck.
Yeah.
Guess we better take some time off adventuring while I make my spell scrolls and get my spells back.
Right. And it's like you couldn't even use, because the one line in here, you can't even have like a backup book. Like when I was first reading through this earlier, I was thinking, oh, all right, so you have your backup spell book and then you pull them out of that backup spell book, but it goes on to say where even if you find them in a spell scroll or another spell book, you still just like it's gone from your memory. You're incapable of managing them.
So, all right, here's where I'm going to push back a little bit. First off, it doesn't have to be prepared spells. By 14th level, you know a lot of spells. And a lot of those aren't really that important on a day-to-day basis. So let's assume an average roll of 9, because that's what it should be. Finding 9 levels worth of spells that you're probably not going to need over the next 4 to 6 days, it's probably not going to be impossible. And at 14th level, the sources of damage do get pretty ridiculous. Like, we're starting to talk about 70 damage in a turn. That said, it's not per turn. It's from one source.
Yeah.
Which is a bummer.
So yeah, if you get attacked 4 times,
you can only do one of those.
Do it once. And also keep in mind, so then if you're talking about like that, where you have some junk spells to be able to just, which I could see wizards getting, especially if this is the wizard that you are, where like that's what your whole thing about collecting spells, even more so than a wizard normally is. Then it's no longer, you could do this once per long rest. You could do this once per 1d6 days. Because like, if you do it and then you roll a 4 and then for 4 days you don't have these junk spells and then the next day you want to do it again, you need to pick new spells to forget.
It better be really damn important. Is really what
not
it comes
dying
down to.
is pretty damn important.
Yes. Which is where I come back to, is not dying is very important. But what I wish, above all, is that this could be used for somebody else. It's not, though. It's only yourself. You can only protect yourself with it.
Right. Compare it to the Rune Knight, a 3rd level fighter ability. They get, I think it's the Cloud Rune specifically. They could just, as a reaction, just transfer the damage to something else. It's essentially, it's better, actually. It's better than this because it doesn't just negate the damage. It transfers it to something else. Yeah. And there is no penalty. It's not like the, forget 3 weapon proficiencies. I'm sorry. 3d4 weapon proficiencies for 1d6 minus your proficiency.
That'd be funny, though.
Days. Yeah.
Now, that said, let's not go comparing things to the Rune Knight because that shit is broken. But,
it's pretty strong.
I can't disagree. And I don't know what it is about this class. I just can't quit it. I love this one, too. I love it. It's this.
Why?
Because it's this huge choice, and it has.
I actually do really
it.
like this feature, but as a 14th level feature with this hilarious outcome, it's just not very good.
Yeah, and I stand by. This is not simple. Oh my god, I had to read it like 3 times to really get what was going on.
Yeah, this
here.
is my other complaint. It's the longest subclass, which makes sense because it's the Order of the Nerds,
Yes.
and I don't like that. To put it in perspective. So you'll have 30 spells by 14th level, so this is not that hard to pull off.
Yeah.
So it's not that bad, but it's just a bizarre class overall. I think they were looking for something, and they just kind of meandered into whatever this subclass ended up being.
Yeah, and yes, back on the flavor, this doesn't, to me, mesh with the flavor of you're the bookish wizard.
I don't know.
It's a little weird.
It is a
You
little
give
weird.
yourself brain damage for a week to make yourself invincible? I don't know.
See, it's more like...
Because it relies on... you have to have the manifest book out. So it's tying back into that. So this is alternates between classic nerdy bookish type thing, fine, the weird arcane sentience in your spellbook, and it goes back and forth. And this is the other one that's back on the arcane sentience in your spellbook and relies on that. And I don't like the flavor of it. I feel shoehorned in there. It doesn't fit to me. And just to clarify something real quick, the Cloud Rune, it's when the creature is hit by an attack roll. It's not any source of damage.
Okay, that's very different, actually.
That does balance it out a decent bit. But still, I don't think this is a good 14th level wizard ability. It is too high and too strong of a penalty If it came in
I think one of the
lower
other
and then you
problems-
forget like one spell and once per long rest you could avoid damage, because there's a whole bunch of classes where it's like you could avoid the damage, or instead of dropping to 0 you don't. And
This
they
isn't
don't
an
have
only
penalties.
long rest ability. You wouldn't instinctively use this every long rest to make use out of it.
Right.
Because it's so brutal for the next 6 long rests up to.
Right.
So this is like the emergency of all emergencies, and as a class capstone, it's that kind of sucks. You use it in the worst of worst case scenarios, which isn't bad, but you just wouldn't get a whole lot of use out of it.
That's fair. Now, that said, this in a way scales very well, because the higher level you are, the more spells you have, the more junk spells you could probably find, and backup spells you have. In like that same way of like, if I have to forget the snowball spell in place of Scorching Ray, okay, whatever. But the source of damage also generally gets higher and higher and higher. That's like the one thing I like about it. It's just the fact that you can negate like 80 damage, just say, nope, never mind. I don't actually care about that right now. I have like this, it's a decision that you make. And that's it. I don't know. I like that.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, all right, School of Abjuration's 14th level ability is you have advantage on every saving roll against spells and resistance to all spell damage.
That is
Conjuration is all of your summons have 30 temporary hit points.
That
Divination is you
sucks.
get a third portent dice. I mean,
Those are
these
all
are
strong.
like huge and impact how you play.
Yeah.
They will always come up. And they don't have major penalties.
I feel like I need to say this very explicitly, all right? This class has a ton of problems, and I love it, and I will defend it to the death on the principle of I like the class. And that's it. I'm totally with you. I think you're totally right on just about everything you're saying. Not even just about, just like every critique you have of this is correct. It is specific. The flavor is kind of weird and doesn't do anything for you, and I totally get why. But it does it for me, and I want to play the nerdy, bookish wizard, like, all in. Just 100% loves books. And I don't even like reading. Reading is stupid. That's not true. Reading's okay. But, like, I like it. I like everything about it. Even though it sucks, and is complicated, and it hurts your head to read.
I'm fine with it being complicated, but yeah.
It's got to be some more payoff.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it does need just a little bit more oomph or less penalty for the 14th level feature.
Yeah.
Something. I don't know, even if it's just like changing up the dice, like 1d6 spells of spell levels you forget, and for 1d4 days. I don't know how they landed on this amount.
3d6 has the potential to be pretty bad.
Yeah. I mean, that would suck.
It's hilarious, though, too, because you could roll an 18, not have that many. If you overuse this and accidentally kill yourself.
Right?
That'd be hilarious.
That'd be such a good risk, though. You're like, oh my god, if I don't do it, then I'm going to take like 150 damage. But if I do it, I might roll so high that I just die anyways.
That's another thing to think about, is if somebody was really just like abusing the shit out of this, it would get so friggin' complicated. You'd have to have this running list of how many days which spells were gone. If you use this every day.
Well, you're not. You're not using this every
But
day.
if you did, and you could legally do that until you killed yourself.
That is your prerogative.
Which spells do you have today, Mr. Wizard? I've got 3 total spells left in this book.
I got a Tensor's floating disc. That's all I got.
The goblin attacks. Well, I'm rolling it up. 7. Shit.
So
that's a good idea, Kevin. The bookie wizard.
Yeah. Oh. Okay.
Oh yeah! Come on, triple snake eyes. It's like
it's not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen.
Addicted to gambling with your own life.
Now I'm curious. I'd almost want to see at 14th level just from the spells you learn normally in your wizard progression, like cumulatively how many spells you have, I guess spell levels you have. It'd probably be easy math to add up.
It's how you pick.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you start off with
Does depend on
6
how you
first
pick.
level spells, and then you learn, 2 per, right?
Right.
So 32 spells, bare minimum. And if
They're
for
like
some
all
reason
level-
you
Yeah, 2
chose
per
all
wizard
level
spell.
1 spells, which I don't even think is possible.
You can basically do it one and a half times.
Right. So yeah, you would have that is a fair point. You would have a lot of spells.
Yeah, and that's, once again, not including any spell scrolls you find and copy into your book and, yeah, all that. So I don't know. I feel like I want to see it in actual play if you would, like, be thoroughly regretting it every time you do it because, you know, in the next day or two, those spells come up and you feel like an idiot, or if it's just a really cool way to avoid a ton of damage. Cool to me, not cool to you, Kevin. I think we can agree to disagree there.
Yeah, that's fair.
But stripping away some of your own power in a sacrifice to keep yourself alive, I like that. The fact that it's from your book, books, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're killing the arcane sentience in your book. I mean,
Right.
that's what it is.
Which you'd probably
And
develop a bond with.
Yeah, so I don't know if that's just, is it the same arcane sentience that comes back?
Your call.
Yeah.
If you want to say no for the flavor, I like it.
Well, that's kind of a dick thing then.
Hey, they're sacrificing themselves so that you can survive.
Well, you're choosing to sacrifice them, but yeah.
No. we can say that they're the ones choosing. They're choosing for me. But yeah, it is my choice.
The arcane sentience, it can't speak, it can't really communicate or anything, but I just know
It wants
I
to
know
do
my
this
heart of
for me.
hearts. It wants to do this for me.
Yes. It wants to give me temporary brain damage in order to save my life. Yeah, what a weird one.
Yeah.
The fact that you can't cast them off spell scrolls too, like that's the part that from a flavor perspective I can't understand for the life of me. Like I get why from a
It's
meta
brain damage.
perspective.
It's very specific brain damage.
Right.
Yeah.
From a meta perspective,
Yeah.
totally get it. They're like, no, you chose to get rid of these spells, no cheating. That's it. But otherwise, it's like I can still read all of these other spells. Why is this one out of my reach? Hey,
So yeah, that's a class.
Yeah,
that's
a
a
class.
subclass.
They can't all be winners to everybody.
Yeah, this felt like it needed to be 2 separate ones. The one where you awaken the arcane sentience in your spellbook and do a bunch of kooky stuff with that, and then the bookish ultra erudite. There we go. Ultra erudite wizard.
What?
Big word of the day.
What does that mean?
Erudite, educated.
Yeah.
Why don't you just
That's how
say
educated people say educated.
No, it's how
You
pompous
dummy.
people say educated.
That's what I said.
Is it erudite and not erudite?
Yeah.
No,
Erudite. I don't know. That's not
I
like
don't
a
know.
missile or something.
I just made myself look like a fool by mispronouncing the big fancy word.
You didn't look very erudite, Kevin.
Nope. All right, I'm done with this conversation.
As most of our conversations end.
Yeah. We talked it into the ground.
Yep. Well, then, I don't know. What's left? Do you have promotional? Oh, right.
Yeah.
Make sure to do all of the YouTube things. Like, subscribe, ring the bell, leave a comment, tell your grandma about our show. And most importantly, look at all of the links in the descriptions to see our affiliates, as well as our social media that you can find, and all that great stuff. And as Kevin once told me, I was really
Thanks
hoping.
for watching?
Yeah, there it is.
Oh,
Okay.
all right.
You know, if I point at you near the end of the episode, you got to be on top of that, all right?
All right, thanks for watching. All right, let's redo it.
Okay. And as Kevin always tells me,
Thanks for watching. Do I always tell you that? I don't think I've ever said that to you.
no,
What context would I have said that to you in?
none.
Yeah. I mean, I say it at the end of every one of these, but it's not to you. It's to
It's
the
not.
audience.
I thought it was to me.
Yeah. Thanks for watching me record our show.
I didn't understand the context, man. I'm no erudite.